This is my consistency of royal icing right out of the mixing bowl. I have taken classes where they have stressed to not over whip your icing. And I always say, oops, because I really, it is like marshmallow fluff and it's how I like it. I work well with this consistency. I thin it down. Even this is a little soft, and I think it's just because it's been sitting here for a little bit. But I always cover my bowl with paper towel, wet paper towel, and just take out what I need when I'm going to work with the icing. I have Pyrex nesting bowls. I love these for cookie decorating. I like this shape, or this size, I mean. You definitely want to consider the cookies that you're dipping. You want to make sure they fit and that you're not going to be cramming a cookie. And I have done this before. This one's not too bad, but if you're gonna do rectangles in that bowl, then you're not going to be successful. I use these a lot. I have too many of them, and for a while my mom was giving them to me for every Christmas, and I finally told her to stop because I have them in the closet. Before I get started on thinning down the icing, I do want to mention that with the cookies, I am a proponent of baking your cookies and freezing them. Even if you are in a rush and you only have 1 hour to freeze the cookies and then let them thaw on the counter for an hour, then do that. I've even frozen them for 15 minutes and have tried to get a little bit of a freeze on them. It improves the texture. I've done taste tests. Everybody likes the taste better. And more importantly, with dipping, it really kind of strengthens the cookie so that if it's a delicate shape, or if, like this one is just cooked enough so that it's going to be pretty soft in the middle, the freezing really kind of stabilizes that structure. And I've even had cookies kind of bend as I've pulled them up and they have stayed whole. My cookie is the no-fail sugar cookie recipe that you will find on the internet with a few alterations because I need to change everything for some reason. And it's a really great recipe. It tastes good. I do use vanilla bean paste, so the specs are from that. But I really can't stress enough the importance of freezing your cookies before dipping or just before using them. So what I usually do, these are just little spoons from IKEA, and I used to use a spray bottle, but I have issues with leaving water in plastic for a long period of time because of toxins. So I want everything to kind of be as fresh as possible. It's really easy to make a mess when mixing water into this really thick consistency. So you have to do it carefully. I also want to mention that I really think it's important to thin it down by hand. If you thin it in your mixer, you're going to add a bunch of air, and then I don't think you'll ever get rid of the air bubbles. Whereas when you thin it by hand, within, like I said, 6 or 7 cookies, you really are down to a few bubbles, depending really on how aggressively you mix the icing. My royal icing recipe is Sweet Sugar Bell's original royal icing recipe. I use the whisk attachment, which a lot of people say not to do also. I don't use warm water. I use water out of the refrigerator because it's filtered. And this might take a little patience to watch, but I just want to show you in real time. Now, if I were to do this in the kitchen at the counter like I normally would, I would go much faster. Okay. So a lot of people, when they take their icing out of the mixer, it's this consistency. So if you start with an icing that's this consistency, then that's great too. That can work. Another suggestion I have, and I'm just going to do white, and I have dipped in all colors. Black, royal blue is my favorite color to mix, red. The first time I tried to dip minis, I had 200 little squares, and I tried to dip them in black icing, and it was a complete disaster. So I could do it now, but as a first go round, I don't recommend it. I really suggest working with white until you have that down. So at this point, I would add a little bit of white food coloring. I don't add a lot, just enough to keep it opaque. Any brand of white food coloring works. I happen to like the Wilton white in the squeeze bottle that you can find at Michael's, but their bottle is lacking in design, and I end up with white all over my hands, all over the place. The little top that snaps back on always breaks, so I don't know what that's about. But I'm going to add several spoonfuls at this point. Now, as far as consistency goes, as far as, you know, what you would need for dipping, it's a little thicker than I think most people expect it to be. I don't count my icing, but I'll show you what I'm looking for. And once you do this for a while, you will get a feel and you'll just know when it's ready. And I'm kind of hoping I can go a little short so I can show you what you will see if the icing is too thick. So, as you can see, this is almost good. It's self-healing. One thing that I like to do is I like to, you can see all these bubbles that I have going on the top already, even as gentle as I've been, is I like to dip a spoon on the top, turn it over, and see if it self-heals. And in this case it does. So I may have not been successful in going a little bit under. So let me stop here and let's see what this does. So as far as what tools I use, I have my scribe. This is a stainless steel scribe. I bought it off of Amazon. It's heavy, and I don't have to worry about the finish chipping off like some other scribes have done for people. And then I also, and I have my wet paper towel on this, so that's not great, but I also cut a piece of paper towel that is, you know, I have the select size, so I just kind of cut a strip that kind of fits. I kind of guesstimate. A lot of times it's too small and the cookie hangs over the edges, but that's okay also. So if you have noticeable bubbles like this on top, you can use the side of your scribe. And I wish I could remember who did a video on this, but this really is probably the best helpful hint I've ever been given as far as cookies go. And that is to use the side of your scribe to pop the bubbles, because if you try to attack it just straight on, chances are you're not going to pop the bubble. But this way you can get several at once. It covers a large area. And here's another, like, usually I'll run my scribe across a cookie like that so you can see how this is self-healing. So this is probably a really good consistency for dipping, even though, like I said, I was trying to go a little short so I could show you what could be a problem. So we'll see how this turns out. Ultimately, dipping is really relaxing when your consistency is good. If you feel like you're stressing out, like this is not working, why did I try to dip, this is crazy, then you need to adjust your consistency. And I am, I believe, one of the laziest cookiers out there. I don't want to fix. I will use thicker or thinner if I can get away with it, solely because I don't want to take the time to adjust it and make it right. But in the case of dipping, it will really pay off if you get it right. So at this point, if I had time, I would let it sit for a while and I would let the bubbles rise to the top. And I think I might do that and turn the video off and come back in a few minutes. When you do leave your royal icing, of course, and most of you guys know this, you really need to cover it with a damp paper towel. I'm going to try to keep this off of my work area because I had it so pretty and now it's wet from the paper towels. So I'm going to leave this here for a few minutes and we'll come back to it.